And for further analysis, we're joined from Paris by Director of the EU Asian Center, Maher Nicolas Firzli. Welcome to Qnews Economic Bulletin, sir, and it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Given that 17 sanction packages have not deterred Russia, what critical gaps remain in the EU's approach, sir?
Opinion, the EU doesn't have a lot of credibility left when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine crisis. You said it yourself.
Sir, why doesn't the EU have any more credibility?
You said it yourself. In less than 3 years, this is the 17th sanction package against Russia. So the number itself is ridiculous because it means that every 2 months, there is a new international sanction package against Russia. And every time they use the same words, which tells you a lot. Every time they say they will suffocate, they will strangle the Russian economy. And they've used that vocabulary, suffocate, destroy, strangle, for the past few years. And here they are. This is the 17th EU package. And it's becoming ridiculous because if you use tough language, like I'm going to kill you, I'm going to strangle you, you don't do it 17 times.
Do you think, sir, that Russia could be strangled or killed?
So I think the EU is in no position to strangle anyone today. I think Donald Trump has all the cards in his hands, and to a lesser extent, Chairman Xi Jinping in Beijing, and they are the ones right now before our very eyes. You mentioned it earlier. President Trump is in Abu Dhabi today. He was in Doha yesterday. He was in Riyadh 2 days ago. President Trump of America, Chairman Xi Jinping of China, they are playing the new great game. They're partitioning the world along spheres of influence. And Russia falls right in the middle, if you will, between the new American sphere and the new Chinese sphere of influence. And clearly Europe will have no say. What's fascinating, to come back to your question, geography is very important in geopolitics. And today there are 2 meetings happening in Turkey simultaneously at the same time. There is in Ankara, the capital, President Zelensky of Ukraine, and he was joined by mid-level negotiators from Russia. And that's a message from President Putin. He didn't send high-level negotiators. He sent second-tier bureaucrats to negotiate with Zelensky in Ankara. The same day, and that is not a coincidence, the European Commission and NATO, they are holding a meeting in Antalya, which is a beach resort in southeastern Turkey. And Jean-Noël Barrot, who's a French foreign minister, together with Kaja Kallas, the European Union foreign minister, they are the ones plotting that 17th or 18th sanctions package against Russia, which is completely irrelevant. But there's something very interesting happening today in Antalya. And we heard it earlier today from the mouth of Kaja Kallas, Jean-Noël Barrot, and Emmanuel Macron. They are meeting in Antalya a few American politicians, Republicans, so they are members of President Trump's own party, the Republican Party, and the French and the European Commission are so naive. They think by meeting these American senators, like Senator Lindsey Graham, for example, today in Antalya, Turkey, they will flip them and they will put pressure on President Trump to change his position vis-a-vis Russia, which is very ridiculous. But it shows you the delusional state, sadly for them, in which many European policymakers are today.
Sir, I'm very sorry, but I'm lost. What did you mean by the 2 meetings that are taking place, one in Turkey, with regards, of course, to the Russian-Ukraine war and peace talks, which is mid-level representatives that are attending, and the other one that's in Antalya, where, of course, the NATO or the European Union is moving on with. What do you want to elaborate, or what's your narrative on this, or what do you want to explain or say?
I'm saying the cruel irony, they are happening in the same country, Turkey, and they are happening on the same day, today, Thursday, the 15th of May.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to understand more. Do you want to say that NATO is ignoring Ukraine?
No, I'm saying NATO under Trump is not like NATO 4 or 5 months ago. And this is the problem. This is the things European policymakers are having a hard time understand. So when President Biden was in power 4 months ago, it was a completely different kind of NATO. And when at the State Department you had Antony Blinken, for example, it was a completely different State Department. But 2 or 3 months ago, NATO changed. So in essence, America is no longer hostile to Russia. If anything, America now is neutral in the Russian-Ukrainian war. And this is something European Union policymakers are having a hard time understand because, like I said, when you listen earlier today to Jean-Noël Barrot and Macron of France or Kaja Kallas of the EU Commission in Brussels, before flying to Antalya, they were saying, look, we are meeting with American policymakers, senators, congressmen in Turkey, and we are going to flip them against Trump, and we're going to convince them to put pressure on their own president from their own party, the Republican Party. So that kind of talk is totally delusional, of course.
Got your point, sir. Sir, as calls grow to redirect frozen Russian assets to Ukraine, what legal hurdles stand in the way of repurposing the $300 billion, sir?
So that's very, very difficult because clearly, to make a long story short, according to international law, as it has been practiced for the past 200 years or more than 200 years, it would be totally illegal to do so. So seizing the ownership of Russian assets and transferring them, like they are saying, to Ukraine, blah, 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 would be completely illegal. What they have done in the past year, they have illegally, the Europeans have completely illegally taken the interest rates. So these Russian assets, they were unable to seize control of them, but they are freezing them, like putting them in a freezer or refrigerator. And while the money is frozen, they are stealing every week, every month, the interest rates produced, yielded by Russian assets, and they're transferring 3, 4, 5% interest rates to the Ukrainian government, which is completely illegal. But now some Europeans want to go more. They want to seize the assets themselves, not only the interest rates generated by the assets. And here, there is a conflict inside Europe because some European countries, and it doesn't mean they are pro-Russian, they are pro-international law. For example, the Belgian government is not pro-Russian at all.
That was Maher Nicolas Firzli from Paris, director of the EU Asian Center. Sir, it's always a pleasure to have your insights and informative, valuable knowledge. Thank you very much for joining us in our economic bulletin and for answering our questions.